Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Sony Alpha Livestream, episode 3. We are having another casual chat this evening. I'm your host, Sean Elwood. Let me just appear from behind the curtain. And this evening, we are joined by 3 brilliant and talented photographers. And I think we have the biggest time zone shift tonight as well. So we'll get to that in a second. But first on stream, I'm going to welcome Kim Dao. Hello, how are you?
Hi, how are you? I'm good. How are you?
Really good, really good. Thanks for joining us.
No, thanks for having me.
It's excellent to have you on. We are also joined by Vienna Fornolles. Hello.
Hello. Hi.
Hello, hello, hello. How are you?
I'm good. How are you going?
Very good. Very good. And finally, all the way from sunny London, we have Stephanie Meek.
Hey, Sean, how are you going?
So good. How are you?
Good, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. What time is it there?
It's 10 a.m. at the moment, so.
Oh, that's actually
not
surprisingly civilized.
Yeah.
I really thought we were going to have you up at Sparrow's Fart, but this is much better.
Yeah, I'm
Okay,
very
all
grateful it was a 10 a.m. and not a 5 a.m.
It was. We could have done it. We could have done it just special for you, but
please don't.
No. So guys, we've kind of worked with all of you guys at one point or another, but maybe I'll just go around and get everyone to quickly sort of say a little bit about what you do. So maybe Kim, starting with you.
Okay. Yeah. Hi guys. So I'm Kim Dao, and I'm a content creator from Australia, and I primarily am on YouTube and Instagram. I do have a bit of a photography background, but most of what I do is for Instagram, and I film vlogs, especially travel and makeup videos for YouTube.
And you're kind of a big deal, right?
No, no, not really.
We're going to talk a little bit about some of your photography, I think, tonight, right? We're probably more focused on that side of things.
Yes.
Cool.
Yeah.
And Steph, tell us a bit about what your photographic situation is.
Yeah, at the moment, none. Just like every other sports photographer.
Everyone else, yeah.
No, so I'm a sports photographer. Started photographing in Sydney, Oz, and have recently moved to the UK, specifically London, just to explore those opportunities. Mostly I focus on football, so or soccer in Oz, as we get berated for over here.
Excellent, awesome. And Vienna, tell us a bit about you.
Oh, hello. I am Vienna Fornolles. I am a commercial photographer. I dabble into portraiture, fashion, events. Some of you may have seen me at the Sony events throughout the past 4 years. And I am also the head photographer of a wonderful agency called Redscope Films based in Sydney.
Yeah, so we work with Redscope all the time. They do all our sort of behind the scenes stuff whenever we run events, that sort of thing. So yeah, I've been working with Vienna since forever.
Yeah.
Well, close to forever. I don't look at forever's a long time, but well, great. Guys, thanks for all being here. So the way for anyone who's fresh to the stream, although I think we have a pretty a lot of repeat customers, we're going to talk a little bit about some interesting stuff that's just blown in from the internet. And then we're going to talk a bit about these guys' work, which I think is probably the thing everyone's excited for. So one of the things, Steph, I know you were interested in talking about this Netflix thing that you saw just recently, the Our Planet documentary that you saw, right?
Yeah, so this popped up on my Netflix the other day, given I've got a bit more time than I usually have now that there's no sport on. And it's behind the scenes of how they shot the Our Planet series, or I just label them David Attenborough documentaries, which is probably not the right word to use. But basically, it was a lot about patience. I'm not a very patient person, and I'm very much itching to get back out. And, you know, these crews go out sometimes for 4 years and just watch and wait and try and find things, try and get shots that they can get Yeah, and I think it's just like phenomenal. They might get a 10-second clip and that's it. And they've been waiting there for, you know, not only hours, not only days, but, you know, weeks, months, years. And I thought that, yeah, it was just crazy. I had never seen that, or I'd never really fully respected it.
Yeah, one of our ambassadors that we work with, Steve Axford, he's based up on like the Central Coast, and he is just in this like little rainforest kind of area called Buyong, and his whole his specialty is time lapse of fungus.
Like those shots are
like
amazing.
a specialty within a specialty, right? But like, yeah, when you see those time lapses of like a mushroom growing, and you're like, who sat in the jungle for like a week while that thing grew? And it's like, no, that was him.
That's
and
really cool.
Yeah. It's crazy because he's so specialized. You know, he has a shipping crate in his backyard, which he has like sealed up, and he, you know, because otherwise it's like, well, you're not going to leave your camera in the jungle for a week. But instead, he has a shipping container full of rotting logs, and he just sets it all up and shoots it in there. So
yeah, wow,
madness,
yeah,
crazy. So yeah, if anyone's looking for a shipping container full of rotting logs, I know a guy. I guess maybe I like this this story for the sheer weird / yuck factor of it, but the murder hornets, Vienna, that was one that caught your eye.
Yes. So for those that don't know, let me tell you all about it. So I woke up randomly at 4 a.m. just because COVID season, and obviously broken sleep. And I looked on Google, and apparently there's these insects or murder hornets, and they've been introduced, or they've discovered their way out to the US, and are just creating chaos up there and killing all the bees. So there goes the system in the US to an extent.
That's fine.
Yeah, that's
it's 2020. We're just burning it all to the ground.
Yeah, you know, what else can go wrong? You know, Mother Nature was like, here's some bees, murder hornets, go for gold.
It seems legitimately horrifying. It's definitely nightmare fuel.
It is. Apparently they're massive, and they can actually sting through the uniform of the beekeepers and such. So yeah, not fun.
Wow. Burn everything.
Yeah, but I've been stung by a bee, and that already scared the heck out of me. So I don't know how this would go down. So apparently a few pricks to your body, and that's the last of it. So
wow.
Yep.
Aptly named murder hornets.
Yeah.
Well, thanks. I hate it. I also have I found a kind of interesting weird thing on the internet. I think this is an old thing actually. It was a article on My Modern Met, which is tres pretentious, but I do like it. About these this guy called what's his name? Xavi Bu. He's a Spanish photographer, and he does these. He calls it ornithography, but it's like photos of birds in flight. But instead of taking photos of them still, he captures these the pattern of them as they're flying.
That is a really cool shot. That shot.
Wow.
They're crazy, aren't they?
Yeah.
I was so fascinated by these. Yeah, I don't think it's the first time they've done the rounds, but it's a really good article that just sort of talks about his practice and the way he shoots. Although interestingly, doesn't actually say how he does it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of
How does he do it?
oh, what's your philosophy? What's your approach? But it's like no actual no, but how'd you take the damn photo? You go.
None of them are really in like color per se. It's a very like just less saturated. I don't know.
Yeah, I just feel like maybe that's his style. Definitely fits with the kind of North Sea vibe of the whole thing. I was looking at him and trying to. I feel like maybe he shoots 4K video and like combines all the frames into a big image or something.
Yeah,
I don't
you
know.
can't take that in one photo.
I don't think so because it's
No,
not.
it looks like he stitched it together somehow.
It's multiple photos, right?
Yeah, definitely.
We're on to you, Zavi.
Put him on here.
We'll better get this guy. I'm going to get him on stream. We'll get to the bottom of this. Well, very good. Anyone else have anything they want to share off the cuff, or shall we move on to sharing some pictures?
Honestly,
I feel like we're here to talk about pictures, right?
Yeah, we're here to talk about pictures.
Everyone's like, "What are you doing?" I would just get to it. All right. Anyone want to put their hand up to go first? No, no one will. I know. All right.
Go first.
There you go. Yes. Oh no.
So we can get through the tech issues because
I
can't share my
tech
screen.
issues? Don't even say that. All right. Let me share this up here. Right, Steph. I'm gonna just fade into the background here, and you can talk us through.
Yeah, cool. So I think a lot of people sort of are interested in how I started getting into sports photography. One of the things I guess that, or how I started photography is I actually shot landscapes well before I shot sports. And this is my favorite series at the Stockton Stand Dunes in Newcastle. So I thought I would start with a good photo because the rest of the images that I've chosen is just how things can go wrong in sports photography. It's a really, I think, demanding style of photography. So for those who don't know, we will shoot a game of football. So you've got a 90-minute game, obviously, but you'll get there a couple of hours beforehand and set up. Pick your spot, pick your corner, which can always be quite an interesting part of the process as well. And then delivering images. So we deliver about, or myself at the moment for a game, I'll deliver about 20 or 30 images before half time. So as the game is going, we're actually feeding through images live as we shoot. So as much as everyone's like, it's really cool, you get to watch all these games, you're not actually watching as much of the game as you probably think. And then you probably submit like another 20, 30 images before halftime, at the end of the game, or within an hour after the game, and then you'll do another edit after the game and submit another 100 or so images. So as much as everyone thinks it's very exciting, and to be honest, it is very exciting what I do, it's hard work and there's lots of demand. So it's all about getting the image out as fast as you can. So I'll take you to the first image. I guess these are some of the things that can kind of go wrong in a game. So, you know, this is one of my favorite shots of Alana Kennedy. It was at the Cup of Nations in Melbourne, and, you know, a player from Argentina just walks straight across the front of your screen. And I shoot with the A9, so, you know, I've got a very high frame rate. That player did not move. So this was the best frame that I could get of that moment. You know, so things can go wrong, and they do definitely go wrong. But yeah, this is just one example of things that can happen. If you go into the next frame, I'm really hoping these are in order. So I was really lucky. I was really fortunate. I had the opportunity to go photograph the Women's World Cup in France. So this is Sam Kerr's first World Cup goal. I love this shot for personal reasons, until you look at the background and you see the TV guys and the sound crew, I think they are. So what could be a really wonderful shot and something that's really nice to look at. Every time I look at it, I see that dreaded background. So sometimes you've got to think really quick and try and get a composition that sort of is a bit different. Or you've just got to capture the moment and enjoy the fact that that's the background you're going to get, because that's, you know, what's happening at the game. So that was quite interesting. The next one. So I think this is the last game I've shot. I think when I first started photography, I always looked at the other sports photographers and I, looked at a lot of their images and I thought, wow, they're like amazing images. They're really good photographers. They must get no bad shots. The truth is you get so many bad shots. You just got to hope that you get the one shot that is, the shot. And in this one, you can see that I've got the player out of focus. So I've got the crowd. So although I do love the crowd's expressions, and that is also very exciting to capture, it's, not the image that I personally would like to have got. I can see I've got a question. Do I specialize in a particular sport? And there's a reason I chose that sport. And that's a really good question. I like football. So I played football a lot when I was younger. So I've naturally gravitated towards photographing football. So I guess I would say I specialize in that. I really like also photographing women's sports. So I do a lot of, when I was in Australia, I did a lot of netball and focused a lot on the W League and the NWS, the New South Wales football. And so, yeah, I think I just take the opportunities as and when they come. And obviously now that I'm living in London, there's a lot more football opportunities. So I've naturally gravitated towards that sport because I do love it.
Soccer for those following at home.
Sorry, yes. I can't use that anymore. All my UK friends will
be mocked relentlessly.
Yeah.
Do you find moving between sports, like, is it harder to follow the action, or is it something that you just sort of change gears in your head, no problem?
No, it's really, really different. I thought that it would be really easy, but if I go from something like football to netball, for example, pretty much at netball you sit on the court, so you're as close to the action as you can get, and because the court is smaller and they're just so fast, you have to be different in your style of shooting because you have to really be able to read where the play is going. Whereas in football, you can kind of get a couple of shots from, halfway and you can follow that quite easily. So, yeah, the different sports require just different readings of the game. But in terms of actual shooting, changing your shutter speed or changing your focus, that sort of stays static. I don't really change that too much. But, yeah.
So Supercars Exposed in the chat is asking, is it important to have a second backup camera?
I think when you're starting, no. So if you're, if you just wanted to get into sports photography, don't go and buy 3 A9s and think that you're going to be the best sports photographer. It doesn't work like that. Now, as a professional and, having briefs, yes, having a second body is really important because I can put so I've got a 100 to 400 on one lens and I can put a wide on my other lens. So, yeah, I think having a second body just allows you to get those portrait shots that are quite different to the action shots. So, yeah, I do very much use the second body.
Very good. Craig Turnbull asks, do you stick with one particular focus area mode when shooting a game?
There's so many questions coming through. The focus mode. So at the moment, I'm not very techie when it comes to focus mode. So you're gonna all laugh at me. I use the little box right in the center. So it's very, very simple. And I use a back button focus. So for me, the back button focus actually changed the game for me. That was just so much easier, particularly with fast moving images. If they're coming out of the tunnel, so I tend to use auto tracking if I can. The facial recognition, I find that the Sony works really well for that, and that's what I tend to use if it's a much slower pace. But yeah, if you look at this image, for example, and if I was using facial recognition, it will look at all the crowd and get the crowd, which is not what I did on this, by the way. It was just an error.
Very good. All right, let's move it right along here.
Cool. So this, I'm an Arsenal fan, so I got to shoot an Arsenal game, and this image is one of my favorite images. So it was shot at the Emirates Stadium. It was an 85th minute goal that Aubameyang scored. I think, I've got the winning shot. This is the goal that sends them into the next round. So as I'm editing these images and sending them off, Olympiacos scored in like the 90 odd minute. So that makes this image redundant. So this image, although this image is a really cool image as a football fan, this image does not portray anything about the game at all because Arsenal didn't win. So you can get an image like this and it can be absolutely useless. And I think sometimes, everyone talks about luck and things like that, but this is just one of those times where, I got an image that I've always wanted to capture, and they lost the game. So things like that can happen in sport, and they do happen all the time. So it's just like one of those moments.
A lot of the guys that we've worked with in sports photography, they're just always out. It seems like if you want to get the 1 in a million shot, you got to take a million photos.
Yeah, it really is like that. It really, you can go to thousands and thousands of games or hundreds of games and get, one shot. And that's just how it is. This one is, I've included this one just, you were talking about the speed of netball as well. And this is one of those things where I absolutely love this shot. Both of the girls' focus is on the ball. It's a really cool shot, but I've not composed it correctly, and I've cut off Maddie Proud, the Swifts player's arm in the image. So the image isn't really a full image or an image that I would probably use because of that reason. So sometimes things can happen really quickly. You think you might get a shot, and then you kind of look at the back of the camera and you don't. So that's just one of those sort of images.
Is it to you? Is it really hard and fast with that sort of stuff? If someone's got a arm or something out of frame, is it just like forget about it? That thing's gone.
No, so I think it's a lot of it depends on the brief, actually, to be honest. So if I'm shooting for myself and it's just an image for myself, or for the Swifts girls, like something smaller, then it doesn't overly matter that much. Usually if I've got a brief, so at the moment a lot of it is don't crop anything out, so have all the limbs in seems to be a pretty general rule for sports photography. So it just does kind of depend on what the brief is and what you're required to provide.
What about you, V? Because you shoot a lot of stuff for I guess for an editorial brief or something like that. Like, do you find it's super prescriptive in that way?
In a way, yes. I think it just depends. You kind of just have to think on your feet about it all. And just depending on what is available to you, you just go and get it. I think it's the same mentality that you would have, same as Steph, where you can't really compose the image straight away. You just have to literally physically move and just assume where the person's going to go. So you have to preemptive the shot. If not, you have to move yourself. So it's the sport isn't going to move for you, same as sometimes whatever is happening in front of you. So you just have to go for gold in that sort of way.
Okay. All right, let's go for the next one. Love this one.
Sometimes you do get hit in the camera or in the face with the ball. So this is one of my, to be fair, it hasn't happened very often and I'm very, very grateful for that. But this shot, sometimes it happens and I didn't even know the ball was coming towards me that quickly. I didn't think it was that close to me. So I've got the shot to show you that it definitely will get you every now and then. But that's just a cool shot of, things happen. That's
the lady always got that expression like, ooh, she gonna get it.
Ball to the camera.
Nice.
Just pray that it doesn't, hit you. Or pray it hits you and not the camera gear. Sometimes that's
the cheaper option.
Sometimes that's the nice.
It depends. If you're working in the US, then maybe flip those around. But
so I think as well, this leads into Vienna's point is sometimes you've just got to deal with what you've got. So this was, Tottenham scored up the opposing end and this is their goalkeeper celebrating the goal. So, you can't get goals of someone running to the opposite corner, it's going to be a terrible image. So sometimes you've got to look around and see what you can get. So see if you can get fans, or if there's a goalie celebrating or coaches celebrating. So it can be really interesting to try and have a look around and see what else there is to shoot. And I think like that leads to your point, Vienna, how you're saying is sometimes you might get a brief, but the brief might not be possible sometimes. So you've got to manage with what you've got and what happens. And I'm not sure if that happens with you as well, Kim, but like sunsets, I think, are a good example. People want, that beautiful sunset. They'll ask you for that brief of a beautiful, lighting, and then you get lighting and you think, oh, that's not the lighting that they're asking for at all. But yeah, so that's just an example. Sometimes you've just got to focus on, other things.
Make lemonade.
Yeah. And then, I've gone through all my terrible shots, so let's show you some good ones. Sometimes the goal gods can really bless you. So, you can choose, you've got 4 corners to choose from. You choose the right corner, they score at your end, and then they run to the corner where you're sitting. So sometimes you can get lucky, and, like you said, Sean, you can shoot hundreds of games and get no images. So you just got to really celebrate when these happen.
All good. Did you get that? Steph, we just had a question from the chat. I might flash back up, but it was just about how particular you have to be with horizon lines being straight for sport.
Yeah, so I like straight horizons. So these images that I've shown you are, please bear with me, they're my worst images, or some of the bad images. So the horizons aren't straight. That last image isn't edited. I'm not showing you my best portfolio. I'm just showing you the things that can go wrong.
Are you worried that they were like, how important are
I did see
straight
that
horizons?
pop up, and the horizon was like this. I was like, no, they're bad images. So I like a straight horizon, but then I think as well, if I'm shooting just creatively, you can get away with not having a straight horizon. I think there's some really phenomenal sports images out there that, really push the boundaries of, this is what you should have: a player, all limbs in the shot, cropped hair. That's very strict to a brief. But if you're being creative, I think go for it. I think just, find what you like. Find what you like. Don't send, terrible crooked horizons to customers or clients. But yeah, if you're learning, or if you're just trying to be creative or find something new, just go for it. So this is just something, sometimes things happen after the game as well. So one of the things I really love about women's football is they will do this for hours, and I mean hours. So, sometimes you've got to hang around and you've got to shoot things that, you might want to do sports photography because you want to get all the action, and that's not all that happens in football, and that's not all that happens in sport. And so sometimes you get these other moments, and I think these other moments are really beautiful. I love these. So it was just a point that it's not all action and go, go, go. Sometimes it is, the quieter, softer moments. And then I think this is my final image. I'm hoping.
Yes.
So this, I think, is just to summarize that, it is a lot of hard work. There's a lot of demand. Submitting images really quickly is a skill that I'm learning. Cataloging is a skill that I'm learning. Having 50 million photos and trying to figure out how to find them all is a skill I'm learning. But it's a lot of fun. I really enjoy photographing sport. I have a lot of fun. I get to travel. I get to see the world. I'm now living in London. I've got more opportunities than I've had before. So if you're interested in it, I guess my only thing that I can say is just have a go and just start. Which I think probably leads quite nicely into that question from Jared Redman, and who's asked, how does one get their foot in the door to shoot professional sport? So my journey to shoot sport is quite, I think, maybe unique. I was lucky. I won a competition that allowed me to photograph a World Cup qualifier. And from there, I sent my images to the local W League teams. when I say local, I was living in Sydney, and my 2 teams that I shot for were Canberra United and Newcastle Jets. So local is probably a broad stretch of the imagination. And then from there, I just took, I guess, the kind of person I am is I just took every opportunity that I could, spoke to a lot of people, met a lot of people. But I think the biggest thing that I learned, and the games that I've learnt the most are the much smaller games. So shooting, my local park games, a couple of friends that might have a game of football on the weekend. I say, I want to test this thing out on my camera. I'm just going to come to your game, and rocking up with, a 400 at this local netball court is always quite interesting. But I think, if you want to get a foot in the door, my best advice is to just keep shooting and find what you're passionate about, find what excites you, because that will just make it so much easier on you to just grasp those opportunities when they come. I hope that helps.
I think no, that definitely resonates with what I've seen from others. Especially it seems like everyone who gets into sports photography, because it's such a small and kind of really it's a pretty small and tight knit industry, and everybody's origin story is kind of some special fluke of fate, that they kind of were doing this, and they somebody noticed them, and it's like but in the end, like nobody ever gets in there by not shooting. It's like you got to be out there shooting all the time, and then that's where the opportunities come.
Exactly. And it is it's competitive industry, but it's a very lovely industry. A lot of people have helped me on my way. I've had lots of photographers give me advice, help me out. It's not a horrific industry. I really enjoy it. So you can get opportunities just from meeting people. But my biggest advice is just go out and shoot. I think that's probably stock standard for everyone. I don't know if you probably agree, but the best way to learn photography, I think, is just going out and practicing.
Good. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Steph. Maybe Kim, do you want to share some stuff next?
Yeah, definitely. So
brilliant. Can I throw you up? You ready?
Oh yeah, you can chuck my screen up. Yeah.
Lovely.
So I guess for me, what I do is quite different. I shoot for Instagram. I do have a photography background where I used to work in a photo studio. I started off doing photography as a hobby when I think I was 18 years old. And then, from there, I decided to move on to YouTube. So I guess my Instagram, it came after my YouTube, but because I had that photography background, I was able to edit the photos. So as you can see, this is my Instagram, and I edit according to a theme. So I have a color theme going on where the colors transition. So this is like a beige color theme, then it goes to blue, pink, then purple, green, red, and so on. So the way I edit the photos, it's for Instagram. So for example, if I just opened up this photo, it's way too purple. I would not edit a photo like this normally, but because it was part of the theme, that's why it's like that. So I thought it would be interesting to bring up some of my before and afters and maybe explain how I edited the photos. So let me show you. Yeah. This is a raw image I took. So for me as well, because it's for Instagram, I don't shoot photos myself. Usually I have to get a friend to shoot for me, or I get my husband to shoot for me. Now, normally they aren't photographers, and I have to set up the camera myself, show them exactly how I want the angles and everything. And then after that, I go home and edit the photos. So this is the photo, and this is the after. Wow. So the before and after. I edit everything on Lightroom. So a tip, I guess for me, I always self-taught my skills. So I never learned how to edit properly. And I guess on Lightroom, when I usually edit, normally what I do is I just up exposure, down highlights, change contrast, the blacks a bit. I never did that much until I started doing this color theme. I realized changing the colors, there's a tab on Lightroom. if you change the camera calibration and changing like the colors, like the reds and oranges, yellows, so on, it makes such a huge difference to your image. And I always ignored all that before, but definitely it makes such a huge difference if you're trying to change your image completely. So for me, for Lightroom, because I'm a bit lazy, I like to make my own presets. So I have a certain style I go for. I make my own presets. I run that preset first on my image, and then I change the colors after. So this is one of them. This is for the purple theme. And the sky is fake. I use them like, for me, I love like clouds in the sky. So I bought this package of clouds and I was just Photoshop it in. So yeah, it's highly edited.
Magic.
I guess like you're not doing photojournalism, right? Like no one's going to be
Instagram. So, so this is one of the images I wanted to show you. This is
so
another
when you're framing these shots up, like do you have a sense of where it's going to end when you're framing it, or are you like, obviously you know what content you want, but do you also kind of have a sense of like, yeah, like this is all like that sky's going to look like this? And
normally not really. So usually when I shoot Instagram content, I don't care that much about how it looks like on camera, because in my mind I'm like, oh, I can edit it as long as it's shot in RAW. So if I forget to shoot in RAW, that really pisses me off. Like as long as it's shot in RAW, it's okay. I can do anything to it. But yeah, like generally I do have an idea of what I want, but if I look at the camera and it looks really dull, I don't mind that much, because I know, yeah, it can be fixed later. Yeah. I've got a question. What do you think of using presets? I mean, I don't really think much about it. For me, because I have a certain style, I make my own presets. In the past, I used to download a lot of presets and use them. But I mean, to me, I don't really mind that much, because I feel like for photography, the whole like everything is part of the process, like the shooting, the editing. So I think it's fine. Yeah. Yeah, sorry.
it was just interesting with your kind of photography, like so much of what goes into the shot isn't just where'd you put the sliders in post. It's much more about, or what's in there, how have I composed it, what's in, what's out, all that sort of stuff. So, I think a lot of people start to feel weird about presets, because it's like, oh, well, you didn't make any decisions while you're editing. It's like, no, I made a lot of decisions. It was before I got to Lightroom.
Yeah. I know a lot of Instagrammers, they don't really know how to edit, so they have no choice but to use filters and presets. And I mean, that's fine, because they're not really saying, oh, look, I'm a photographer. They're just posting on Instagram. So I don't see an issue with it. Yeah. So that's one of them. This is another one I shot. And this is edited. Now you can see that it's a bit different, because I forgot to turn off the camera distortion on the side. Yeah. So that's one thing that that I tend to forget to do a lot, because especially if I'm shooting on with a wide angle lens, the angle distortion, that kind of messes up with the image. But this is for the blue theme. Like the sky, once again, it's fake, but like if you look at this image, it's way too blue. I would never edit a photo like this unless if it's for theme. So for this one, if I can remember correctly, I actually I think I had to edit this photo a couple of times. So on Lightroom, I might have like 2 or 3 different pictures, and then I would run it through Lightroom, save it. Then I go into Photoshop, and then I would do some more edits on there. So all of my photos, like I'll be honest, it's very highly edited. And it's just because I want to get that perfect theme, because sometimes you can't do everything on Lightroom. So yeah, on Photoshop, you get more control, I think. Yeah, so that's another one.
The the blue gives a real mood to it, though, doesn't it?
Yeah,
like it's very much like the what you feel when you look at the original versus the edited is very different.
Yeah, very different. So I mean, I was thinking about using this image again, editing it a different way. Because at the moment my theme's more like a neutral beige theme. And I do like this image, so I was thinking about using it again. This one was shot by my friend. She has no experience taking photos whatsoever. What I usually do is that I would get a friend to jump in the shot first, take it for them, then show them this is exactly what I want, try and frame it like that. So that's how I got that one.
I have a stupid question.
Yeah.
What is the piece of furniture that you're like? I don't understand.
Okay. Most of the Instagram photos you see on Instagram, they're all fake. So this one, I was in a hotel in Japan at Universal Studios. I literally pushed the bed all the way to the window. It was so much hard work. It took me 20 minutes. It was so heavy. My friend and I pushed the bed all the way to the window. We moved all the pillows over. We added all the pillows we had into the so all the pillows we had in the room. We combined it onto the bed just to make it look more fancy. We added the room did not look like this. It did not look like this whatsoever. There's been times where I was in a hotel and I just took the mattress from the bed, not the hotel, from the bed, and then moved it to the window just so I can get the shot. So there's lots of people that think that I stay in all these fancy hotels with this beautiful view, and I wake up to that. But no, it's just it was a lot of hard work. You just move the bed and make the shot yourself.
I love it. Amazing.
Yes.
So actually, there's an interesting question from end user. Does it feel wrong to sacrifice the final photo because you're trying to stick to the theme of your feed? I actually got to the point where I had decided I'm not going to stick to a theme anymore, because I would take some photos when I go traveling and it would be a beautiful photo, but it doesn't fit my theme, especially the color scheme. So I would not post it. And then it's just wasted, right? So I decided that it's too stressful. And every time I plan a color theme, I would shoot everything like a month or two in advance, edit it. So all the feeds planned out. So it doesn't feel authentic in a way, because all the pictures I posted, I've taken ages ago. So I'm trying to change that. Just because I'm trying to connect more with my audience. So yeah, I do feel it does feel a bit wrong for me. So that's why I'm changing what I'm doing. Yeah. And then this is just one final photo I'm going to show you. This one I'm actually not the most proud of, because the colors, they're a bit off in this one. So sometimes I do some horrible edits, and this is one of them. I don't know what happened to my skin tone here. It just looks really weird. So if I were to edit this photo again, I would definitely fix that. But this is also for blue theme. So the clouds were actually real in this photo. So that's the before and after. Yeah.
It's crazy. Do you do a lot of like localized edits in your images? Because I just feel like the whole dynamic of the image changes. Like you really pop from the background a lot more in this than in the original, right?
So usually what I do, if I don't feel like the image like is like bam in your face, this is what it is, then I would actually, so on Lightroom, I would make an edit where the background looks great, and then I would make another edit where I look okay, and then I would run it onto Photoshop, and then kind of join them together. That's what I usually would do. So it's not just on Lightroom, but I do a few edits on Photoshop as well, just to get the picture perfect. So we got a question from Christine.
I think it's just a comment.
Oh, it's just a comment, sorry. Loving how Kim is really pulling away the curtain on the truth behind how gorgeous Insta shots are really set up. Yeah. So honestly, I'm just going to say Instagram is fake. Everything is fake. Like you try and have this perfect feed to make it look like your life is amazing and this is what you do every day. It's not. For most of my hotel shots, it's just me pulling beds out, pushing pillows over, and just trying to make the shot look good, but behind the scenes it's probably a mess. This is how it is. But yeah, those are my Instagram shots. Did you want me to talk about my YouTube, I guess, a little?
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, if you got something that I think we're not hard up for time, so.
Okay. So I'm mainly on YouTube. So Instagram's just kind of a side thing for me. And this is one of my most recent videos because, I mean, we're all stuck at home. Usually I film like, okay, it's going to be a bit laggy. Sorry. I'll just stop that for now.
It's watchable.
It's watchable? Okay. So I do mainly travel videos, especially to Japan, but because of all the border restrictions, that's not happening right now. So I've been filming a lot of stuff at home like this. I started vlogging back in 2011 just for fun, and then it came... I don't know, it just started growing, and then that's how I took it more seriously like a couple of years ago. So for me, for vlogging, it's very different to photography. So let me just pause that. I think it's distracting me. So maybe I'll talk about the cameras I used to film with. So that might be useful for people that want to vlog as well. So most of the time, I vlog with my Alpha 6400. Got this one last year. It's a great camera to vlog with. It's not that big. So when I used to do photography, because I was young, I felt like people didn't take me seriously. So I would purposely put like an extra battery pack on the camera and extra lens just to make it look big. So like, you know, the bigger camera you have, the more serious people take you, right? So that's what I used to do.
Any comment?
Because in the past I used to shoot weddings, so that's what I used to do. But now when I'm on YouTube, I prefer to carry smaller cameras around. Reason being is because people do judge you when you go out, and if you're holding a camera talking to it, people look at you, and that makes me self-conscious even though I've been doing it for so long. So I do shoot with this camera usually, but I do use the Sony. This is the RX100 Mark VI, and this one's also great because just a point and shoot. Honestly, on YouTube, like you don't need any fancy cameras. I mean, this one's a great camera. It's got the flip screen, and I always go for cameras with flip screen so you can see what's going on when you're filming. And this one here, this is the Sony RX0 Mark II. This is my favorite because it's so easy just to hide it in your hand. It's also got a flip screen. Just hide it and film. No one can tell that you're filming, and that's what I go for when I buy cameras these days. So when I vlog, I usually use these 3 cameras, and yeah, these cameras are small, lightweight, easy to travel with, especially when you're traveling. You don't want to carry around so much gear, and it does the job.
Lovely. Did you want to say anything else about that clip, or should we ask Vienna to take center stage?
Oh, yeah. You mean the video?
Your video, yeah.
Honestly, there's not much to it. This is just me cooking at home. This is a travel one that I did. It's just a quick example. This is, oh, that looks so good. I'm so hungry. So this is just like a vlog in Japan that I did. My vlogs, honestly, they're quite simple to film. There's nothing fancy about it at all. I just feel myself eating food, going to interesting places in Japan, and yeah.
Do you do all your like graphics and that sort of stuff yourself?
Yes. So all of this is done by myself. It's nothing fancy. It's just back in text. That's all it is. But yeah, I do everything myself, and I think my background in photography definitely helped me edit videos as well. So it helped me with color grading and everything. Yeah.
Very cool. All right. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
V.
Hello.
Shall we switch over?
Yeah, of course.
What have you got here?
Oh, well, first of all, before I do begin, I just want to say I can resonate with both Steph and Kim with what they do in terms of working the camera both in front and behind in terms of making up a shot and then the candid raw moments that Steph has to capture. So from what you guys have talked about, definitely resonate with both.
You like the meat, the sandwich.
So I understand. Yeah, that's why I'm here.
Very visual out. I planned this, but I planned it.
That's me. So first of all, in the intro, I did state that I did do a lot of different types of photography, and I'll start with this one. I love flat lays. I do a lot of flat lays for quite a few brands, but majority would be for Sony. What I'm going to show you is a flat lay that I've done for Sony before. It was shot out in New Zealand, and I know it doesn't seem like it, but it was. So basically the brief was that we had many products to shoot in probably, I think, around 4 days. And we had to obviously show the different lifestyles that these sort of products cater to. And I want to say and share that behind the scenes, most of these props were found around the house that we hired out. And also some of those, I guess, plants and such were just found in the backyard. So a bit of a tip there, just use whatever you can find.
Storage.
And yeah, just doing that. You know, you got to be resourceful in these sort of situations. Given that we had to shoot overseas, we obviously couldn't bring plants and such over. So you got to do what you got to do. In terms of composition for flat lays, I can resonate with both a minimal approach and the ones where you see that it's a bit of a hot mess, but that hot mess just works, you know? And obviously enough, you would want the product that is the central focus of it to be in the middle. And with flat lays itself, the gear that I do use primarily is my R3 2470. And depending on the situation, I'm quite petite and small, so I can hold it, or I'll have a tripod with me to help it, and then lock it up with a monitor so I can see what's happening. Or I'm a bit of a risk taker where I'll just hope for the best. Sometimes you got to do what you have to do.
Hey, actually, I got a question. Have you ever used a studio stand for this sort of stuff?
No, to be honest.
Oh.
I'm just breaking rules.
Don't. It'll just make you sad that you don't have one all the time.
Yeah, next time I talk to you, Sean.
Just forget I said anything. It's fine. It's fine. Move on.
I'm like, oh, okay, well, I see how it is. No, I am the tripod in this sort of scenario, so it works out. What was happening here was that we had natural lighting happening, so we had to cover up the curtain and then have a makeshift sort of reflector, which was pretty much just paper to help move where the light was going to be, which is coming from the top of that frame, essentially speaking. And yes.
Can I just get you to do something like just on a really boring technical level? The little arrows at the edges of your frame, can you just like click them to make all your panels collapse so that people can see the image a little bit bigger?
Oh.
See on each edge, you're like a little arrow that like points out.
Oh.
Should be able to like.
Does this work? Oh my God.
Unclear. But I think because your panels are in, we could be just seeing it a little bit bigger.
Oh, I am a bit lost.
Pretend I said nothing. Let's continue. Oh, okay. That's a little bit better. Is that a bit better?
Is that a bit better?
I think let's roll with it.
Okay. Technical difficulties, Steph. It was.
Wait, I have a thing for this. Maybe it's fine. It's fine.
It's about to happen. It was me. Another one that we did. Again, make do with what you have around. So a bit of edit magic, or what was happening in terms of behind the scenes. The texture that you see in the background is essentially placemats from Kmart. So again, do the best that you can. Very cheap sort of perspective there that we can sort of harness in. There you go. I'm just going to quickly full screen that, if that's okay. Is that better for everyone? Yeah.
It's the same, actually.
Oh, it's the same? Oh, it's going full screen on my one, but all right. It is what it is.
Magic of the internet.
And same sort of thing. It was shot with a 2470 and same sort of setup that I had in terms of the monitor. I'm very particular in terms of where things are meant to be falling in terms of the props. I think when it comes to flat lays, people tend to think that it's just do whatever you want, but there's actually a strategy to it in terms of flat lay photography. You see it when everyone's outside at cafes, like this will do. And it's just like, oh, well, what about that little corner there? Like, what if you have to crop it for a square sort of format or a landscape sort of format? So keeping in mind that these sort of shoots or these sort of photos had to be used either for landscape or square format in Instagram or Facebook or whatever, was something as a photographer you should really consider, depending on the brief and depending on what needs to be shot. So for product photography, it's kind of your job and responsibility to think of that outside for the client and also consider it in the long run.
So when you're setting up one of these shots, are you like thinking like, all right, like all my corners and edges, like what's coming in, what's going out, all that sort of stuff?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, pretty much. Just in case. So you kind of leave the corners to be a bit boring, a bit just blasé, but it still does the work of it, the magic of it.
Mm-hmm.
I think given that I have a graphic design background, the way that we're told is that when you look at visuals, your eyes usually read in a Z or a Z sort of shape, the way that you scan an image and the way that you read books and such. So the way that you should also compose an image is on that left to right sort of scale and then format, and then let it drag down across and back down again. So the way that you would want a photo as well for flat lays to read is in that same format. So as you can see on the top left, it's a bit, bit blasé. And then you have it coming down that you see that the main focus is the product itself. So that's that. Yeah. I'll show you one that was done recently for, probably would have seen around.
Wait a minute.
What is that?
I know this photo. I was on the set for this.
Yeah. You were there. So Sony had done profiles on Sony ambassadors, and pretty much I was given the task to flat lay on the spot their go-to gears for what they use and what they use it for, and essentially show in a raw sort of context that this is their go-to kit from a Sony Alpha perspective, but what they would usually do to fulfill a brief. And those textures, FYI, were from Bunnings. So if anyone needs textures again, these are little tactics and tips that if you want to make your own little flat lay at home or wherever you want to go, like at the office and such. This was cheap, probably around like $5 for this. So it really helps per se. And for the lighting setup itself was an aperture light, so which was really handy.
Yeah, when I've worked with like food photographers before, like they're always just got like a stack of there's planks. There's put like a plank on a pair of cinder blocks, and it's like, great, this will be perfect. It just seems like that stuff is essential for flat lay sort of stuff.
Yeah, I think a lot of wooden textures are very popular for flat lays, and again, you can get it from Kmart or Bunnings. So, like, be resourceful if you're on a budget.
Tips.
It's there. Yeah. So feel free to look into that yourselves. Last one that I'll do as well from here is this sort of flat lay that I'm pretty sure was done for Mark Taylor. Yeah, so this is essentially his one. This was done obviously in a bit more shiny texture, bought from Bunnings, and same sort of thing. I didn't necessarily have a tripod on this set, so it was me just standing on top of the table of the kitchen island. And
very precarious.
Yeah. So that's just a little FYI of revealing behind the curtain as to how these shots are done. Just always make sure that everything's, everything is in focus. There's that little mistake that you could, because you can't look at it, it would be blurred. So just make sure that it works. The focus modes that I usually use are zone, center, and I think it's called flexible or flexible spot. Those are the ones that I really harness towards. So, yeah.
Very cool. I'm going to put you on the spot here a little bit. You can say no, but like you showed us, you shared some sort of like fashion week sort of shots with me before the stream. Do you want to talk about them at all? Like I thought they were so striking. It was super cool.
Yeah, of course. So I'll just pop this up while I do a quick little debrief. So I actually do fashion photography as well. There's such adrenaline when you shoot runway. People have this impression of when you shoot runway, it lasts for around 20 minutes or so. No, it's less than 5 minutes pretty much. The only time that it seems like it's a long time, like a long period of time, is when the media is walking in and the other influencers and such, and they mingle for 15 minutes. For us in the media pit, it's essentially we're there for half an hour, but we're just waiting until the actual runway begins, and then you have less than 5 minutes to shoot. And this is where I can resonate with Steph, that the deadlines for these things are like, you know, quick turnaround within less than 30 minutes, depending on who you shoot for. So when it comes to Mercedes-Benz Fashion Week, I usually shoot for an online magazine, and they want their street style, more so shots, like the shoots for it straight away. And so you have to like go like, yeah, you shot it, then you just run past people, go to the green room, everyone's on the same sort of deadline, trying to pass through it all. And oh, thank you. Thanks, Lisa. and yeah, and it's just one of those things that I think people think it's very easy, but runway is a different ball game in itself. When I shoot runway, essentially, I try to be very different in terms of what happens on the runway. So people usually go for the really close-up shots. So I'll bring it up here, actually, like this, per se. For myself, I like to do it a bit differently. Oh, I don't really have the shot here, but I would usually try to do within one runway of a model, probably 5 or 6 different angles. So 70-200 is a great example of a lens that you can use. So I'll do a close-up of their face, and then their shoes, and then their attire from the side angle, and then from the back, and then you'll have 2 other models in the shot. So that's another just bit of insight. So an example would be of this. So while I was trying to shoot the details of that front model, I had to, within a split second, just zoom out all the way, get all these 3 models in shot, which is apparently a very, like a golden shot per se, because it's very hard to get those models where you want them to be. But it all depends as well where you place yourself in the media pit. And for myself, personally, since I'm just small and petite, I usually make my way, run to the front of the media pit and just wait there, make friends, and I'm like, all right, under the tripod. Under the tripod it is.
Hey V, just got a question from Christina Aguilar, who's asking, what's your go-to kit? I suppose you have a flat lay of that.
Oh, okay. I'll quickly talk in terms of flat lay kits. I think I touched upon it. My R3 and 2470 are my go-to ones. For runway, it would be a variety of things depending. So 2470 with my R3, or my 70-200. If I'm feeling a bit risque, probably my 85. And the good thing about the media pit is that, yes, you can be in the media pit, but also you have the chance to run around in different positions of where the runway show is happening. It's best to be in the media pit, but sometimes you don't have access to it, or there's much more of a hierarchy per se there, just unveiling the truth of how it's really like. And some people try to think outside the norm of what is being uploaded onto, let's say, for example, Instagram. Instagram is a great time for Fashion Week because everyone wants to get their hands on the golden shots. So the different, the better, essentially speaking. So yeah. I think that's
very cool.
That's good.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And thanks to everyone. I guess if anyone has any other, I'm just going to talk to our pit crew here, but if we have any other questions hanging back in chat, maybe last chance. Here we go. So for Steph and Vienna, do you review your shots before sending them through, or can you connect them straight to NFTP to upload?
Steph, did you want to go first? Or?
Yeah, I'll go first. Sometimes it pretends on the brief. So I've been lucky that I've even had a runner that comes and gets my SD cards and takes them and then edits the full images for me and captions them. So yeah, it really depends on the brief. My personal workflow in my regular games is, yes, I still look at them on my screen rather than FTP them straight through. This is largely because in my who I currently work for, they require all the images to be captioned. So each image that I send through would say, for example, Stephanie Meek kicks the ball into the opposing side's goal, or Stephanie Meek scores. So each image that you send through has to be captioned. So as part of that, it's easy just to caption edit on my computer and send straight through. Yeah, that's what I do at the moment.
Vienna?
For myself, I don't have a runner. I don't have an so usually
we'll cave it on. It was the best game ever shot.
Well, I'm gonna go ask now my bosses if I can have a runner.
Yeah. We've started something here.
Yeah. Gotta go. So for myself, I always like to review my shots. I think the good thing about being in the industry for a while, you're able to preemptive as to what would be a great shot or what exactly the client would like. So in terms of all angles, try to get the best of those angles straight away. Do all what is necessary first, and then after that, go shutter crazy, and and then everything else can be a bonus. So essentially, for myself, it's more getting the highlights and what is required, and then just seeing what else can be uploaded.
I guess just to chime in from a nerdy point of view, we definitely do have the A9s and the Armag 4 have really robust FTP stuff. So if you ever want to shoot that way, it's always available. And actually, we've got a really cool thing where you can set up an FTP server essentially on your phone and shoot to that, and then do all your captioning and all that sort of stuff on your phone on the sideline if you want to, and then pop it back up to the server. Question from Gazmo99. Hi, Kim. Any tips? I'm going to say that's tips for generating revenue from YouTube.
So from YouTube, it's quite different. So obviously you've got ads, AdSense, and ads. How much you make really depends on a lot of factors. It depends on how long people watch your video for. Where they're from is the biggest factor. So for me, most of my viewers are in the US, in Australia. So that is where the highest, I guess, what's it called? CPM is. So I'm lucky in that aspect. But honestly, ads, you don't make that much. Most of your income would be from sponsorships. So I do have a lot of brands I partner up with, and I create content for that brand, and then I promote their, usually it's makeup product or skincare product. And yeah, I guess for Instagram, it's the same thing. Brands would partner up with me. They would want me to create content. So obviously, because they're going to be paying me for the photo, I would put in a lot of effort in the photo. I would go out, I'll buy props for it. I would set the photo up. I'll take maybe 500 photos. I'll pick 2, send it to them, let them pick. So there's different ways to generate income. Some people write books. That's what I know is a big thing right now. What else? They live stream quite a bit as well. I know you can make quite a bit on that. I don't do that myself personally on YouTube, but people can send tips. But yeah, generally it's just from sponsorships. That's the main big one. Yeah.
Great. Don't know if we've got any other questions coming through. Maybe while we're waiting, what's everyone doing with their week? We got any big quarantine plans? I guess it's kind of all relaxing now a little bit.
Animal Crossing.
Yeah. If you'd like to
get
trade,
them turnips.
yeah.
Yes.
The hard word on Tom Nook.
If you'd like to trade, I'm willing to accept it. The UK, I think we're still in lockdown. I think we get a brief on Thursday about whether we're allowed out. But we're allowed out once a day for a run or a cycle. That's it. And then groceries or any, medication or pharmacy doctor. But they try and tell us to keep that to a minimum. So once a day for a walk.
Do they time it? Do they say how long you can go for?
No.
Okay.
I think all of a sudden there's lots of people who are running marathons that probably have never run marathons. But it is, to be fair, it is the most enjoyable few hours or hour that you're out.
I bet.
You really get to appreciate your little walks.
Yeah.
Sorry, I think we had a question up there for a second that went away. Nope.
I think it just said thank you. Amazing ladies.
It was nice. Okay, well that's nice.
Oh.
Wow. Nothing about me, I say. That's fine. That's fine. It's fine. I don't care. Guys, thank you so much for coming on stream. It's been great chatting with you. Thanks for sharing your shots as well. You guys are all super talented. I feel very honored to have you guys on stream. So, yeah, thanks a lot. And I think we'll close it out there. So have a great night, and we'll chat soon.
Awesome. Thank you.
Bye. Bye.
Oh wait, no. Sorry, I almost forgot. Any things before we end that you guys want to plug? Because of course it's all about the plugs. Kim, I know of course we'll have your links in the doobly-doo. So your channel and your Insta. Anything else that's been a hot new project?
Nope. No sport. Not much happening. Socials as you've got.
Cool. Awesome. Kim, Vienna, you guys got any stuff you want to give the old plug?
I've just been playing Animal Crossing. Sorry, that's my life.
Okay. I fully respect and endorse this.
Red Skirt Films.
Very cool.
Yep.
They shoot great behind the scenes stuff, great event stuff. I can vouch for them. All right, that's great. Thanks so much. No more false alarms. This is the real sign off. Bye-bye.
Bye.